And we're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live Reality Games, the podcast where we talk about the stuff. My name is Parker, and with me, as always, is Nathan. Nathan, how you doing?
Horrible. Uh we got we delayed this show. You might assume it was because of personal reasons, but that actually wasn't the case. It was because we were so devastated by the two boots this round.
That's absolutely true. Some people have sick days, some people have holidays. We had to postpone this podcast due to devastation. I like the way you put that.
Yeah, we've been
Definitely
grieving this whole
two.
time.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Uh,
where we've been this whole time. But in all honesty, folks, thank you for sticking with us and being patient. Just had some things going on. Real life gets in the way, but we're not going to delve into that because we got Survivor Angelica to talk about. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about the merge episode, episode 7, an hour-long filled action ride. I was gonna say an action-packed film, but that's not. I mean, unless you count the immunity challenge, I guess there wasn't really a lot of action. So, but it was an hour-long episode. A lot to talk about, Nathan. A lot of stuff happened, like you said. Two boots, an idol. More people are More people are pairs and related. There's just a lot to get to. So, what did you think about this episode overall?
Is that going to be a tradition every single episode? Like next episode, we're going to learn that another pair of people has been related this whole time.
I mean,
This,
we I feel like this has been a thing even before Amy and Taylor. We found out about Steve and Janet's husband, I think it was, or something like that.
yeah, that was the most jarring.
Oh, no, sorry. It was Janet and Steve's sister. That's what it was. Yes, how could I
Yes,
forget?
yet another just overpowered pregame relationship here.
No, but this was a fun episode. I'm very excited to talk about it. So Nathan, we start off this episode. Again, before we even get to the Skulls tribe, still best tribe name ever.
Yes.
Before we get to their tribal council, Brett is going to start us off with another bomb of information.
Oh
Actually,
my
yeah, actually,
gosh.
no. Kurt tells us about Brett. Brett's not even the one who reveals it to us. Kurt tells us that Brett and Chelsea are engaged.
Yeah, this happened a couple times this round where Kurt just knows things for some reason. Like, did Brett tell him this, or does he know him like outside of this? I was
So
very
he makes a
confused.
comment at one point that he knows Jay and Brett from a previous Angelica season. So maybe you could make the assumption they're Facebook friends or friends to
Uh,
some extent, and he happens to know this. Chelsea has also played a previous season. We know Kurt is one of the founders of this game. Safe to assume he was on production when Chelsea was playing, or at least knew of the cast. But we don't get a clear answer of how Kurt knows this. We just know that he does. But wow, Nathan. First Amy and Taylor, now Brett and Chelsea. Two more power players in the game have a connection. I mean, well, you can't write this stuff, can you?
well, that's the thing. That's what's comedic about both of these reveals is it's not just like random people who don't really matter like having a connection because that would be one thing.
Right.
But it's people who are like running their tribes
Yeah.
both times. Both
Yeah.
times.
And these aren't just minor things of like, oh, this person liked my Facebook post at one point, or this person I met at the gas station an hour before the game started. Like, no, these are genuine stuff. Like an engaged couple and mother daughter. Like this is turned into blood versus water.
I really want what you outlined, like someone thinking like, "Oh, I recognize their fiance from Facebook." I want that to happen, but for it to not be true. So the entire game, these two people who don't know each other, everyone is just convinced that they're loved ones.
So next season should
Yes.
obviously be blood versus water. and that should be one of the pairs who are pretending to be a partnership, but they don't actually know each other.
Yes.
I would watch that.
Yeah. It's like the reverse of this season almost. Where like two people don't know each other.
I mean, I'm waiting until next episode when Billy and Chad reveal their cousins. So, I mean, I'm just waiting for whatever remaining players are going to reveal how they know each other.
So Kurt also knows about Amy and Taylor.
He does. And I have no idea how he knows that either.
Yeah, it's jarring. It's all these unsolved mysteries with Kurt that we'll likely never know the answer with on these episodes.
No.
We're slowly building to Kurt's sad downfall here, and it is very, very sad.
We are. And this one, Kurt says about Amy and Taylor, he says he had no idea. He doesn't say who told him, but apparently he finds out in this game, whereas it's not clear how he knows about or when he found out about Brett and Chelsea, but when he gives this confessional at the beginning of the episode, it very much seems that this information Kurt has just learned. So it's very bizarre that this information has leaked. And as we're going to find out throughout the episode, the information about both of these partnerships is going to just leak when, we were talking last week about Amy and Taylor potentially being able to run away with this secret, but that's obviously not going to be the case.
So do we know if other people know at this point?
So Brett, so this is jumping far ahead, but I know Brett tells Chelsea before the tribal council the merge tribal, that Amy and Taylor know each other. And then Chad informs Sarah of both Brett and Chelsea and Amy and Taylor. And then I'm sure more people know. It just got muddled in there. So I think more people know than don't at this point. Like, I don't know if we didn't get coverage on if Steve even knows about either of these relationships. I would assume Billy knows about both of them at this point. Like I said, Sarah knows, Chad knows. So I think there's more people that I don't know if Amy knows about Brett and Chelsea. If they said that, I missed it. So I think it's easier to say that more people know about these partnerships than not.
So Amy actually clarified this in the chat. I'll pull this up here. So Taylor told Brett told Kurt and Chad when Taylor left for Skulls. Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you, Amy. Well, speaking of Skulls, we have a vote to get to, and Nathan, you and I were wrong on this.
Yeah, we were
both
wrong.
Predicted that we thought Chelsea would go home, but no, we were both wrong. Alyssa's gonna get the shaft here.
Yeah, which is crazy because Chelsea has like 3 idols according to the contestants.
This Chelsea just keeps finding advantages. She found the advantage that let them vote as a team. I'm pretty sure she found the idol. This is just something else. Chelsea is just really good, at finding these trinkets. But Amy and Chelsea are gonna put a plan together here, Nathan. They don't necessarily, I think, do it as much with Taylor, but they definitely do with Alyssa. They are going to pretend like they are not going to flip, right? Under any circumstance. They are going to risk showing how tight they are. So Alyssa and Taylor are almost forced to vote for each other. And it works.
Yeah.
Good strategy. I did not expect it. I really thought, and I'm not saying this is a bad gameplay on her part necessarily, but I really thought Taylor would have been the one controlling this. So I wonder if Alyssa was a loose ally of Taylor, or it was more important for her and Amy to, be on the same page going into the merge. Obviously, Chelsea seems to be very loyal to Amy at this point. So, I guess it makes more sense to have Amy's loyal ally than maybe a loose ally of Taylor's. Again, we never really got much of a sense of how close Alyssa and Taylor were. We saw when Alyssa was talking to both Amy and Chelsea, she was at least saying she thought Taylor was a threat. So for all we know, this was a good move for Taylor.
I gotta say, of all the pre-merge boots here, Alyssa was the hardest one for me, at least.
Yeah.
This is really a case where it's just one of those people who kind of got an unlucky hand, and then because if she like finds an immunity idol this round, like I think we could have very easily seen Alyssa go like really, really far in the
Oh,
season.
I agree. I
And
think
that's part of
she
why it's like a good idea to get rid of her at this point, because Chelsea is such a big target on her back compared to Alyssa.
right. And maybe that's why it's good. And maybe they didn't really talk about this. Maybe another good reason Chelsea needs to stay. She's kind of a shield in a way,
Yeah.
especially knowing about the if you're Amy and Taylor, knowing about the Brett Chelsea connection. Maybe you kind of want another pair in the game. That might have been an underreported part of why it makes sense to keep Chelsea here. Whereas Alyssa, yes, she knows Sarah, as we learned in a few episodes ago, but I don't, and like, well, and like, her and Chad are obviously very close, but I have to imagine that from what we've seen, Sarah and Chad are considered bigger threats than Alyssa, which means Alyssa was playing a really good game, was in a really good spot. So it's unfortunate she just kind of got an unlucky draw here, like you said.
We're at a weird point in the game where a lot of the people, um, I don't know, I don't want to word this wrong because I don't want to use the word like pawns as though they're just numbers, because that's like a legitimate way to do it. But people who are viewed as figureheads, almost all of them are still in the game, which
Right.
is weird. There's normally like one or two of those that get clipped,
Yeah.
but pretty much all the people who have been voted out so far have either been um, just on the outs to begin with, or viewed as like, oh, let's weaken this person by voting them out, kind of thing.
Yeah, the only person, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only person who I feel like got voted out because they were seen as this huge threat long term was Jared. Right, because he did Survivor.
Yeah.
And that's not to say anything about anybody else who's been voted off so far, but like you said, I think it was more so they either just weren't really clicking with their tribe, they were on the wrong side of the alliances, or they just got an unlucky hand. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's where Alyssa falls here. So this is a tough one. I think Alyssa was a really solid player. I really think if she made the merge, even if you know, let's say by some, let's say if Chelsea left this round and it was five Bosser and five Maliks in the merge, I don't get the vibe that Alyssa would have been the target had the Maliks fallen apart like they will, as we find out later on the episode. So this was just a tough way to go out. Tough way to go out for her overall.
Yeah, it kind of fulfills that trope on Survivor where like the person who's cut right before the merge is like, so close,
Right.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, especially you know and I have to say also props to the production team on this. Obviously, it's unfortunate we didn't get to see the votes or Jason reading the votes due to the rain. Obviously, it was affecting the equipment, but I want to give props to the production team. You and I have been a part of a live game during the rain, and it is not easy to film. It's not easy to put on, and it really does have an effect on the players and the production team's morale. So I want to give a shout out to the production team for carrying through in the rain.
Yeah, that the thing with rain is that however much it's showing up on screen, it's like 5 times worse on location.
Oh
So
yeah,
when I'm just seeing like just absolute like puddles of water dropping at once, I can only assume that they were basically submerged during that scene.
basically like Taylor's shirt looks drenched throughout the rest of the
Yeah.
episode. So like you can only imagine how wet everybody's clothes are at this point.
Yeah.
But no, Alyssa's gonna go here. Um, Anything else? Okay, anything else before the merge, Nathan?
I'm looking at my notes here. Um
Well, let me
oh
ask. Let me. I'll
go,
ask you
go
this. I
ahead.
mean, was this the? I guess we'll see. I mean, there hasn't been any. There wasn't any repercussions at the merge vote. But do you think this was a good move or a bad move for Taylor to let Alyssa go here?
Um I think clearly a good move here.
I would have to agree. Whether
Um,
intentionally or not, Chelsea is obviously. I think she already had a target on her back, and as we find out at the end of the episode, she is still going to have a target on her back. So I'm not sure if Alyssa had the same um, amount of people coming after her like Chelsea has. So I think Chelsea being there is obviously doing a doing wonders for Amy and Taylor. So I think this was probably the right move overall.
yeah, I would say so. There was a weird line from Chelsea before the merge that I wanted to hit on.
Okay.
Uh, Chelsea said, I think this was in reference to putting the vote on Brett in the previous tribal council. She said, I wanted to put it out there. I run those two. You don't run those two. Which I just thought was a funny line. Do you
Right.
remember this?
No, I remember watching it. It didn't stick out to me too much, but it is funny when you phrase it like that.
That's the thing with these Angelica episodes is it's almost entirely people talking. So it's kind of like older US seasons in that way, where
Yep.
every time you watch it, you're just like, wait, did they just say that?
After looking at my notes, I do have to. There was a funny moment earlier on before the tribal council where Chelsea and Amy are talking near the porta potties. They're just having a strategy talk, and out of nowhere, Chad just zips out of the porta potty and just slams the door, and he says, "I was trying to get out of the shot." And did you remember that? I thought that was a funny moment.
The porta potties, is that like the place to strategize or do confessionals according to
Clearly,
this?
it's also where some of I hate to talk so highly of potty humor, but I mean that's where some of the funniest moments have happened. Kurt in the first episode, he had his confessional. Chad is making a run for it while Chelsea and Amy are talking. Maybe it's a good place to do strategy. I don't know.
Um, it might be a little bit like reductive to just put it this way, like oversimplifying it.
Sure.
But I think the problem with a lot of modern seasons is there aren't enough fart jokes and or poop jokes. Because clearly for us, that satiates us here.
Oh, I mean, that's clearly some of the best humor that they can find on the modern show. That's what it's missing. I agree with that. I think you probably just pulled that from Reddit, but I will let you get away with that.
So we're merged finally.
We're merged,
Woo!
baby, and I have to say the merge buff colors are really cool. I
Yep.
like the little mix of all the previous colors. There's a little bit of purple I noticed, some green, some blue. I really like the colors of the buffs themselves.
This is like just something that confuses me with a lot of these live games, including Realfoot, by the way. Where do these people print these buffs at? Like, I can't find blank buffs anywhere, let alone blending colors, putting logos on things. These people must have connections that just are industry specific, apparently.
If you know people who know how to do it, it's very easy. I'm not sure where Angelica gets their buffs, but if you know people. But I'm with you. I for one am not one who would know exactly where to go. So I'm very happy Realfoot has people who know what they're doing. So Nathan, I have to tell you, we merge here, and Kurt gives one of, if not his best confessional of his entire tenure this season. What does Kurt do? He talks to the camera, and I wrote down what he said. I don't want to get it wrong. He says, this is so easy. You just have to walk up to people mid conversation and laugh. Come on. He signals the camera person to come follow him. He walks up to a conversation with Taylor and I think Chad, and he just starts laughing. Has no context to what's being said, and he's just laughing. And then he stands there and then goes up and says, "It's that easy." Where do I start with this? First of all, I'm sad we're not going to get moments like this anymore, obviously, but you can tell that Kurt just knows what the camera people want. Like the camera people, I can't give enough props to them. Their willingness to go along with breaking the fourth wall never ceases to make me laugh. Like the camera person didn't have to follow Kurt, but they did because they knew it would be entertaining. And it was. And Kurt's just so like he has a grin on his face that's just, chewing the scenery. It's just he knows what he's doing, and it just cracks me up. What did you think about this?
Well, the thing is, it's true. The
Yeah.
I'm it. I think it's less true the older you get, maybe, but especially in like high school, middle school, college, like those years, you could fit into almost any group by just standing there and laughing along with them.
Mhm.
So I admire the strategy here.
Yeah, I mean, as far as it's funny, obviously, but there is some like genuine like strategy here, both in the game and in life. You once told me that some of the best survivor advice you've ever been given is always be with the majority of people on the tribe. Would you say that this is also what Kurt is saying here? Some of the best advice you can give to a survivor player. Just walk up mid conversation and laugh.
Yes, yes.
It can't hurt anything. It's so obviously transparent, but I mean, and obviously, I wish I could say it worked for Kurt. It didn't, but it could have worked had things gone differently.
What did you think of this merch feast?
Oh my, so okay. Here's the thing. Obviously, we've seen them get a few snacks in the challenges. We know this is just a 3-day game. Not saying that they're not hungry. I'm just saying it's different than a week. So I wasn't expecting a whole lot of food. So I think it was probably an appropriate amount of food. But I mean, there was a few tasty items. I'm not gonna lie. Like the fruit salad. Like was it fruit salad or just a bowl of fruit?
Is there a difference?
There may not be a difference. You're right. I clearly am one who knows what fruit salad is.
Is that lemonade or just lemon juice and water?
I am clearly one who knows what fruit salad is. No, I mean the bowl of fruit looked good. I can't tell you that even on production during Real Foot, both playing and on production, fruit went a long way out there, especially the amount of talking that you have to do. Just like it just when you eat it, like it really like replenishes you. But did I see some burgers in there? I think I saw some hamburger buns, or were those just sandwiches?
Any like sugar or specifically fruit, like in juice, that's the best.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so
like
not
the best thing I've ever tasted was playing and just getting like half a thing of orange juice. It legitimately felt illegal how good that felt.
when did you get orange juice?
On season 6.
Oh, well, we didn't win
Yeah,
it.
with you.
Oh, the one thing we won. How could
Yeah,
I
yeah,
forget?
yeah. Yeah, but like any soda or
I mean,
juice
I
or
mean,
Gatorade, any of that, like fruit, amazing.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, you're right. We did win that, but I mean, to be fair, remember we could only eat certain things, and we had to save other things, for the future.
Yeah, yeah.
One of our tribe mates wanted us to do that. That's an inside joke. Okay, so not the real show is way different. So let's talk live games here, right? Live game specifics. What is the best merge feast items you can give these people?
Things that won't totally kill your stomach. So like cake is horrible.
Cake is
Uh
bad. No type of like stew or soup. Nothing like that.
I can't imagine eating like, oh, here's some chili.
That's what I'm saying. You can't like give me like if they like chili cheese dogs, like awful, awful.
Which I feel bad saying this now because we normally in Real Food feed them like tacos, which that's delicious, but that's in a similar category of good luck to your stomach.
As someone who's had a taco merch feast, that just goes right through you. It was delicious. I loved it. I'm just saying it's not ideal when you're on very limited amount of food.
I feel like pizza's good. I feel like pizza doesn't hurt
Pizza's
you too
good.
much. Sandwiches are good.
I think burgers are fine.
Yeah. Um,
Obviously,
we already said
fruit, not
fruit.
fruit
Yeah.
salad, because there's a difference. There's not.
Yeah. But like, specifically in fruit, like bananas are always really good.
I always thought like watermelon was good.
Yeah. Okay,
What about drinks? Obviously, sugary
Gatorade.
soda is not good. Like they need Gatorade. They've
I
been
don't know though, dude. Like if
really.
I was at the merge feast, it's like, hey Nathan, here's a Polar Pop full of Coke. I'm like,
I'm saying just because you want it. Like, dude, you don't think I'd want a Dr. Pepper? Like, if I was at that merch feast, I'm saying they don't need it. It's not good for you.
like Parker, here's a carton of cigarettes. Have a happy merge feast.
Here, it's like, here's some vodka. I mean, like, look, I'm surprised they didn't just give it to him because obviously we were bummed back in episode 1 of Angelica that they couldn't have it as their luxury item. So, why not give it to them at the merge? You know?
I actually disagree with you on the soda. Like in all seriousness, like I think the
Really?
high you get from soda, like at that point, I think it's worth it. And it's not gonna like kill your stomach or anything.
No, but it's like the same as you may as well just give them a bunch of Hostess and Little Debbie's product as the
I
feast.
mean, yeah.
That will combined with soda, it will kill your like so it'll kill like any energy you have. Like, yeah, you'll be good for the first 5 minutes of conversations, but after that, I'm not saying you can't give it to them. Like, if you want them to sugar crash, which would actually be kind of funny, we should probably be writing that down for real foot. But I'm just saying, like, it wouldn't be good for them. If I'm a player, I don't want it. Like, these are two different things. If I'm a producer, I want certain things. If I'm a player, I want something else.
I don't feel like I get the what you're talking about with like hostess cakes, but in my experience, I have been in situations before where I've gone a long time like without soda
Yeah.
and been in like uh, like a challenge type setting. I have never gotten like a sugar low afterwards. It's like whoop, and then you go back to normal. It's
I will say, from my experience, the game itself is so intense and so fast paced that, like, even if you want to like crash due to a sugar high, you just can't. Like, I
yeah.
one time during a reward, we got like some chocolate pastries and whatever, but like the game was so intense and like we had a challenge soon after and then we had to scramble for tribal. It's like, even though like I wanted to crash, you just can't. So in all honesty, there may be a point to what you're saying where it's like you have no choice regardless of what you weigh. You just have to keep playing or else you're going to get left behind.
Okay, before we like leave the merge feast discussion, let's
Very
conjure up
important.
let's conjure up the worst possible food you could give someone at the merge feast.
Okay, so chili, bad.
Lamb
I'll,
shanks and cider.
I'm gonna I'm gonna disagree with you on the tacos because I do think the tacos are
Yeah.
good and they can provide some protein. But like again, it's how much you eat, right? Like there are certain foods where if it's like even if you're like just eating repeated like portions like pizza, right? If you're at the merge feast and eating 5 pieces of pizza, I don't think that will be nearly as much damage on your body as like 3 huge tacos or
Yeah.
quesadillas, right? It's just how much you eat. Like if you're just eating one, maybe 2 tacos, I don't think it's that bad. But like if you're giving these people some type of stew, some type of soup, that wouldn't be good. They need something that like is actually filling, for lack of a better term.
Uh I also feel like maybe the worst. Do you remember
Okay,
in
and
Heroes
obviously they
versus
shouldn't. Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say they shouldn't give them alcohol. Obviously, that's not good for as much fun as that is. That's not good for them.
Do you remember in Heroes versus Villains where they just gave them like a chocolate buffet basically?
Oh, that was rough. I mean, do
Yeah.
you remember an Australian Survivor? Like the few times they did like the cake and the pie and the cookie.
Yeah, I feel like that's bad. I don't think that's a good idea.
Oh, I would love it for the first 5 seconds, but that is just like murder on your stomach when you're out there, and that's the
Yeah.
real show. Um, okay, anything? I mean, I'm sure we can conjure anything else that's like, oh, okay. What about this? What about this for a merge feast? Fried chicken.
Yay.
That would
Good
be pretty
point.
good, I would imagine.
like it's not ideal necessarily, but it's
No,
good. It's good.
but like not the main course. How about that?
Yeah.
Not the main course, like a side piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because more okay. These guys, it's different because it was raining, but I imagine if it's very hot, obviously, like potato salad isn't ideal. I have to imagine.
That's like the one of the few foods that if I got there like, "Hey guys, all you can eat potato salad." I'm like, "Do we have any rice back at the camp?" I feel like that's worse than whatever. Like, do you have any like bat guts or grubs over there I can
That's
eat
what I'm
instead?
saying. We're listing the worst items. I've never even seen potato salad in not even real food. I don't think I've ever even seen potato salad in a merge feast.
I was insulted the other day because a family member of mine is like, "Hey Nathan, we have some potato salad. You want some?" I'm like, do you know me at all? Have you ever seen me eat potato salad?
So at the barbecue, you're not eating potato salad. What are you eating at the
No,
barbecue then?
I'm eating. I'm eating chili
At the barbecue.
and Hostess cakes. That's the combo.
There you go. That on that. I love that for you. That's all I can say. On that note, so oh Lord, where we even go? Okay. I have in my notes. We're gonna get a few confessionals before the challenge, right? We're just gonna get people. I wrote down a few here. One that I found was interesting because it's gonna obviously be thwarted. Billy says that Taylor and Brett are gonna approach him, and he's gonna say that they want to target Jay. But Billy's going to talk about he thinks Jay could be a good shield for him. Now, we've talked about how Billy is definitely one who seems to be in a good spot. Everybody wants to work with him. He's trying to play the middle. What do you feel about this idea of Billy trying to keep Jay around? Or okay, scratch. Is it even possible he can keep Jay around at this point?
Well, it seems so. I mean,
I
there's
don't know.
so many
Jay's a
pairs
target,
left in the game that I don't think it's like insane to think that he could keep this guy around for a few more rounds.
right?
Uh, and I don't even know if he's necessarily implying that he wants to take him like super super far. I think
No,
he's
no,
more so saying that, hey, there's a lot of different merge targets. I'd prefer it not be this one.
right. No, I don't think he plans on taking Jay like final two or nothing crazy like that. Just he clearly see. I think if he had his way, he would keep Jay around for at least a few votes,
Yeah, I would say
which
so.
I don't think is unreasonable.
Again, there are so many threats at this point, especially with the connections, that if let's say there are 5 people who are potentially up for elimination here. If you have one of them that you just really don't want to vote out, it might be worth it to stick your neck out for them just so you could have an ally in the game still.
So, not to draw comparisons back to the blood versus water comparison, but if you're a single, I'm going to call them single. If you're a single in this game who's not in a pair,
If you're a hot woman in your local area, if you're single.
if you're single, yes. If you're one of the people without a pair in this game, do you just almost try and work with all the other singles in the game to take out the pairs, or is it more beneficial to work with the pairs? 2 votes.
It depends on the pair. I
True.
mean, I would not feel good with some like the Brett and Chelseas of the world. Like, let me bring these like perfect specimens further into the game. Like Brett's been running both tribes. Chelsea has 4 advantages to her. They're both in like peak physical condition. Like, yeah, I sure want to work with those two.
I agree with, and it also just obviously it depends on the specific relationships these people have with them. Like, I guess I think we're long past the point of the other well, not Kurt's gone, but like the six not people not in a pair teaming up to take out these people. I think that's not even on the table. So I think it's more so going to be about the singles who are aligned with Brett and Chelsea and Amy and Taylor. How long are they going to take them before they want to split them up? I think that's going to be the storyline. I don't see the other now 5 people coming together to split them up. I think the pairs are going to be around for maybe a few more votes, and then it's just going to be okay. Are we going to split them up, or are we going to let these four go to the final four type of thing? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
That's the
The
projection.
thing is, aligning with a pair is fantastic if they're both really bad at the game. Like if it's like the Missy and Baylors of the world, it's like, yeah, Missy and Baylor, great alliance, let's go forward.
Yeah, in that same season, Josh and Reed hit it out of the park with Keith and Wes. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Two loyal guys who can't, keep a secret or like can't like get a vote together. Like those great allies. And Missy and Baylor, they have a 0 win equity between the two of them. So
Yeah.
those are great people to have. But like you said, when you have when you have Brett and Chelsea, who are two of, if not the two biggest targets, and Amy and Taylor, who are both good players as well in their own right, it's not as comforting to want to go far with them.
Yeah, it was weird to me that like I get that their names were thrown out there, but that there was not really any movement to have them as serious targets here.
Right.
I mean, it was a unanimous vote for Kurt this round. I
Uh,
feel like
well, almost.
like almost I
Seven to
feel like there
seven to
should have
three.
been, at least been more than 2 votes for one of at least one person in one of these pairs.
Yeah, they threw 7 votes at Kurt, 3 votes at Brett.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I
That
wrote it
should have
down.
been the opposite.
Well, that's what
Like
Jay
why would
wanted.
you
You saw
split on
Jay.
Kurt?
You saw Jay cuss out the other players. He didn't want
Uh,
Kurt to go.
yeah.
And we'll absolutely get to that. I was gonna say I wrote down a few more things before the challenge, but did you have anything else you wanted to talk about these confessionals that we're gonna get?
I didn't have anything written down for those.
Yeah, I mean they were interesting. It's just a lot of people, they're excited about the merge and trying to figure out where they go from here. It's definitely a cluster. I love hearing that Kurt has been approached in all these alliances. Of course, it was all for naught, unfortunately. But speaking of Brett and Chelsea being a threat, Chelsea finds an idol
In the middle of a confessional.
in the middle of I think that no doubt, like all good things happen in the middle of a confessional. Like they form the best jokes in the middle of confessionals. They make the best plans in the middle of confessionals, and they find advantages in the middle of the confessionals. So, is this a lesson for all future Angelica people? Don't have conversations. Just do confessionals. That'll work
Yes.
out.
Do you think it's a legitimate thing that if they're bringing you somewhere for a confessional, it's more likely that the idol might be hidden there?
Well,
Because we've seen, I remember in actually your season of Reelfoot, Stan found an idol during one of his confessionals.
oh really?
So if they're like bringing you outside of camp, but to like an area where it's still reasonable that you'd be in, maybe like intuitively it makes sense that they'd hide an idol there because they're probably not going to hide it like right in the middle of the camp.
Right. And and obviously they're going to do it without rigging it. I'm not saying that, but if you're a production team, you want these advantages and idols to be found, right? Like
Yeah.
obviously I know he's not a very reliable source at this point, but just, we hear about Russell Hantz back in Samoa. The cameraman would he would be in the areas of where idols were, based on where the camera wanted to film confessionals. So I do think there is some truth to not they're not going to lead you directly to where an idol is, but like if they want these things found, they may do a confessional in the general vicinity. Like if the idol is not in the cabin or near it, they're not going to do it near the cabin. You know what I mean? So I do think there is some truth there, whether intentionally or not.
It's a little bit of damned if you do, damned if you don't when it comes to like production and idols,
Mhm.
because you need the person with the camera. You most likely want them to capture the contestant getting the idol.
Right.
Like that's ideal. You don't necessarily just want a narration of, "Oh, I found the idol. Like check this out." They
Yeah,
have it."
after the fact. Right.
But the problem with that is that people who hold cameras, and I could speak from this, are human and can inadvertently give off clues. So if someone's standing right next to where the idol's hidden, it's only human to go like, oh shoot, like look over, and that glance can give it away.
And I also know from my experience on Real Foot production, filming players looking for idols at some point, like you, especially, you can inadvertently give it away, because I remember filming in season 5. I don't remember who it was, but like whoever found the idol was like searching all around it for like a couple of minutes, and I just like if I walk away from him finding, if I look away or if I walk away to film something else, right, the player's gonna know it's not in that area. But if I keep filming him repeatedly, they're gonna know they're close. So to the area, because obviously, like you said, they're gonna want, the production team wants to capture it when it happens live, so like you said, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's very situational, and I don't think it's something that, honestly, even the real show is, from a production standpoint, is cracked just yet. Because I mean, this in Angelica, they captured Chelsea finding the idol in person. You saw her grab it from the tree, run around, she's excited. That's a cool moment, right? That's way more appealing than, like you said, a narration after the fact, with B-roll footage of her finding it or whatever, or of them, like
Yeah.
putting it in the ground and then pretending to find it as if it was the first time. That's more exciting. But I'm with you. I don't know if there's really anything a production team can do to do it the right way necessarily.
And I want to make it clear, I'm not implying like it was rigged for Chelsea to
Oh
find this
no,
idol, or whoever was in that confessional spot to find the idol. What we're saying is this was not a very difficult idol to find. I mean, someone found it literally like within the first few minutes.
right.
And that's a good thing because you want this out there.
Yeah,
It's just we're just saying this isn't like a season 12 idol where you have to like dig in the middle of like the ground and like find a treasure chest and find a key and like
yeah.
it being super elaborate.
Yeah. No, I also want to say, I'm more so getting at, just, I think this is interesting from a production standpoint. Like, what do you do? What do you talk about with the camera people when they're trying to film players find idols? I don't think any of these idols were rigged at all. I'm more so curious from a production aspect. What do you do? And I think they handled it really well with Chelsea here. I just, from being someone who's been both behind the camera and trying to, tell camera people what would be good and what we're looking for, what do you say and what do you try and do in those situations? It's one of those, like you said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So
And we know it's not rigged because if it was, Kurt would have two idols at this
yeah,
point.
yeah, Kurt would have
And
had
you and I would totally disapprove of that.
yes.
Yeah, we would definitely not advocate for them to do that.
I would not advocate for giving Kurt two idols.
No.
No, I would not. I also would not advocate for rigging Kurt's time in the immunity challenge
Exactly.
to 30, getting the job done in 30 seconds. I would not have advocated for that.
No. Speaking of the immunity challenge.
Oh, okay, hold on. I have one more
Yes.
thing before the immunity, just real quick. I did think this was interesting. Chelsea. Speaking of Chelsea, Chelsea is going to talk. She's going to talk about the Janet vote again, right? When the Skulls team went to vote, Chelsea's going to talk about she convinced Alyssa and Taylor to vote for Brett in the hope that it would cause a rift between whoever was remaining on the Skulls team out of Alyssa and Taylor. In this case, Taylor. No, what do you think about that? That's an interesting move. I mean, as we come to find out, I mean, obviously Brett and Chelsea are engaged, so you would think she wouldn't want him in danger, but I guess she trusted that Brett was in a good enough position to where it wouldn't have mattered. And she took the risk separating Taylor and Brett's trust between each other. What do you think about that play?
That actually seemed really smart to me.
Yeah, I actually really like that move. I'm not sure if it's going to have a long impact, but that seemed like a really smart move.
Yeah, it's really just puncturing more holes into that whole tribe
Yeah.
dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, because as we come to find out, at that point in time, Chelsea didn't know about Amy and Taylor's connection. So if Chelsea is gung ho, I want to at least be Bostra strong for a few votes. then like you said, it just punctures even more holes in that already fractured Malik team. That's all I have before the challenge. Let's get to it, Nathan. Talk us through this immunity challenge. It was an interesting one.
So, I'm not going to lie. This is one of the few challenges where I could not accurately describe this. This was like a triathlon of sorts. It was like, okay, we're gonna shoot a bow and arrow and balance beam, and you'll have like a weight system that you'll be carrying. Uh, did you understand this better?
Yeah, I mean, basically, so it was a time challenge. Everybody went one at a time. There are three stations, right? You got three stations. The first station is shoot a bow and arrow at a target. If you miss, it's not a big deal. If you hit the target with the bow and arrow, it's minus 15 seconds off your time. Not bad. So it's more or less like a reward if you can hit it. Nobody managed to. Second is throwing the bean bags in two different buckets, two bean bags per bucket. Then you had plank of wood, and you had to put the buckets on the plank of wood and carry it, kind of like old-fashioned Australia. It reminded me of the old-fashioned challenge, like in the Australian outback, where Colby, had to hold, you know what I'm talking about, the thing on his back.
Yeah, where Colby and Redacted had to hold those levers on their back.
Yeah, and it broke, very good. But classic Survivor challenge, we've seen this type but they had to carry the plank of wood on their shoulders, buckets on each end, the same buckets that have the bean bags, and they had to walk across bounce beam. Once they got through that, hit the box where they started, and that locked in their time. No, I mean, I understood it. I was curious. I was surprised that they want to do this challenge with 10 people, because you can only go one at a time, and who knows how long each person is going to take, unless unless they stopped them after they surpassed whatever the leading time was. Like we're going to find out Jay was the fastest time, so let's say, I don't know, Kurt was going and he went over before he could lock in. Maybe they're like, okay, you're done. Maybe they did that. They didn't show that on camera, but I'm surprised, Nathan, that they would want to do this challenge so early. This seems like a type of challenge that would take a while, and you want to do with less people. So that was an interesting decision, I thought.
Yeah, that was interesting. Similar to the rain listed before, um, challenges take forever to film.
Right.
And this is one of those, like you were saying, at the very least, I would bet this took like 45 minutes to film.
Right.
At least.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you bet?
Especially if they let everybody lock in, right?
Yeah.
Like finish the task and not be like, oh, you've surpassed the winning time or the time to beat, so you don't get to finish. Especially like imagine if somebody took like 10 minutes or so, and they didn't stop them. I mean, that'd probably be you and me. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I don't think this would be my challenge.
Well, why don't you think you'd be good at this challenge?
Well, I mean, I feel like I think you could do it because your balance is one of your strong suits. I'm not saying I'm bad at balance. It's just with the rain and, I'm not the best at balance, so I don't know if I could do it. I think I could do the beanbag part pretty well. I would not hit the bow and arrow, I'll tell you that much. Could you hit the bow with the bow and arrow? Could you hit the target?
No.
Have you ever used a bow and arrow? I've never.
Yes, actually, as a kid, I shot some bows and arrows.
Oh,
I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
If you're out of practice, there's not really much you can do.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't think most people. I'm not saying people don't. I'm just saying the average person I don't think does archery for fun. But I know people do. I just don't think the average person does.
If you really cared about winning Angelica, you would practice archery beforehand. I'm just throwing it out there. It's like fire making, you just gotta do it.
With an advantage.
Yes.
So no, I mean, I thought it was a good challenge. I was just surprised we got a time challenge where you could only go one at a time with 10 people. That was the only thing that surprised me. I would think they'd want to do that with less people, but I enjoyed the challenge. But like you said, this was definitely one I'm sure that took a while. A few things to note. I liked the editing joke when Chelsea's arrow went so high they added an arrow in post production of it flying above the the trees. Did you notice that? I thought that was a funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
And I gotta say, Nathan, last episode, Brett, when the Skulls team voted for Brett, they were talking about how he's controlling both tribes and he's starting a bunch of nonsense. And in this episode, he gets disqualified from the challenge. Are we seeing a Brett villain edit? Is that where this is going?
Yes, for wearing cleats. First of all, he brought cleats.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some people brought cleats in these games. Again, we don't know how much, what kind of clothes, how little, how much clothes they can bring to this. So let's just say they're allowed to bring 2 or 3 pairs of shoes. I could see maybe for some people cleats sneaking in there, but I've at least never seen people wear a pair of cleats. I've only ever seen like open-toed shoes for around the camp and running shoes like Nikes and stuff.
This is really might be a testament to my athletic ineptitude here, but I don't even understand how cleats would be an advantage here. I feel like walking on a balance beam, like, oh, cleats, what an unfair aspect to this.
I don't know if it would necessarily do anything with the balance. It's just, I do think cleats could help in general in challenges, unless that's not what you're saying. You're just saying you don't think cleats would be good for the balance beam. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think they would be. I mean, granted, I haven't worn cleats since I was like a fetus, but based on my 5-year-old perception of this, I don't think that it would have been like unfair necessarily.
I haven't worn cleats in years. I played soccer as a kid, but like this was like years ago. But surprisingly, we didn't walk on balance beams during soccer practice. So what do I know? Maybe Brett really has a winning strategy here. But I mean, we didn't hear in the episode, but I'm not surprised. I mean, if wearing cleats was against the rules of the challenge, then yeah, he should get disqualified. So not surprised there because I didn't see anybody else wear cleats.
Yeah. It's really a shame how Brett is poisoning this game and making it so nefarious with his cleats.
I also like the other editing joke where they put in a picture of Brett holding cleats. You know, that I got a laugh out of that.
See, maybe we don't need the cameraman to capture people finding the idols. Maybe we just need to Photoshop, tell them after the game, hey, hold up your arms like this, and do clickbait thumbnails, oh, I found the idol.
So, anything about the challenge? Anything else about the challenge itself, or anything that happened before we get to the result?
Not really. No.
I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it, but definitely some people took some falls on the balance beam. I have to imagine it was hard because it was wet. You know, it's already going to be hard when it's not completely wet, soaking wet on the ground. Can you imagine it was wet? You and I are lucky we've never had to really do challenges in the rain, so I can't imagine how much harder they are.
Yeah, I'm inept in good conditions, let alone rainy conditions. Was it pouring down rain during this challenge, or am I thinking of something else?
I don't think it was raining. It might have been. It looks as clear as it had been at that point. It might have been sprinkling. I'm just saying, the ground was already wet, and it looked like the beams were going to be wet from people's shoes. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, that makes sense.
I think especially if you're the 10th person. The beams are going to be wet at that point if they didn't wipe all. I'm sure maybe they wiped the mud off in between just to make it more fair if there was mud, but you can't just dry the wood after it's already wet. So Nathan, despite Billy told us that Taylor and Brett threw out Jay's name, it's not going to matter this vote because with a very impressive time of 1 minute 22 seconds, Jay is going to win the first individual immunity. And I was fully expecting a confessional after this where Jay said, "Of course I won. I designed that challenge," but we didn't get it. So maybe Jay didn't design this challenge.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, we didn't get it. I'm just saying. Yeah. It wouldn't have been funny if Jay designed this challenge and he won it.
Do you think you'd be good at challenges you designed?
You'd have to hope so. I mean, isn't it kind of, I'm not going to say embarrassing, but wouldn't you think, okay, wouldn't other people think you'd be good at the challenges you design, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you design the challenge, even if you don't think you're going to be very good at it, you should probably hope you're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Because people are going to make fun of you.
Like my challenge is like, "Oh right, everyone, you'll have an Apple computer, and you need to compress this audio as quickly as possible. Go!"
And
Like that would be a case where people would be accurate. Like, "Oh, Nathan's really good at this challenge. He designed it."
my challenge is first to make a fruit salad. Oh man.
Yeah.
And I hope Parker's got this. I hope I can win that. But in all seriousness, this was a really impressive victory by Jay. I already said I think I would struggle. Didn't even clock in at 2 minutes. We didn't get to hear what everybody else scored, but I have to imagine this was a blowout.
Yeah.
So we're gonna come back. Okay, so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. We come back from the challenge, and what happens?
Um so Jay all of a sudden becomes like a mob boss here. This was my favorite part of the whole episode. Absolutely my favorite part. Jay has this really weird conversation with Kurt. Where I it's one of these where I don't even really understand what they're getting at. But
Well,
so
okay.
Jay offers Kurt a deal to take out Brett potentially.
In context, they do know each other beforehand, so there might be a friendship here, to be fair.
Okay, so Jay is Kurt's son, we'll assume, based on this season's
I'm
track
good with that.
record. So Jay offers Kurt that they'll put votes on Brett if Kurt like gives them information. Is that what I'm getting from here?
I mean, I love the funny part about this is I love how transparent Jay is about the position he's in. But later in the episode, he tells Chelsea, which we will talk about this conversation later. But he tells Chelsea before the vote, I'm not controlling you here. I forget the term he uses. I'm just going to use the term use. I'm not mob bossing you, but this is what's happening. And that's basically what he's doing to Kurt here, and again, the only reason I brought up how maybe they know each other is maybe because there is some sense of they know each other. Maybe they're able to talk to each other like this. Whereas if they were complete strangers, I don't imagine Jay would be able to get away with talking to somebody like this. But no, I think you summed it up pretty well. Basically, Jay is like, "Hey, you're on the bottom," and Kurt's like, "That's accurate. So I'm not going to promise you a better position. I'm going to say I can offer you a better position, but all I can really say is we're going to vote out Brett, and then the next vote, we're going to have this conversation again." That's the part that got me is he does say I can offer you a better position, but he doesn't say I can get you to the top 6 or 5 or 7, whatever you want to say. He never says that. He says, I need you to vote Brett in exchange for some information, and then we will have this conversation next round.
It's kind of like Princess Bride, like Dread Pirate Roberts, like I will kill you tomorrow, and like the better deal is, oh, he's not gonna kill me today.
This kind of reminded me of Samoa, where we're at the merge and Eric Cardona comes up to the Foas minus Russell, knowing that they have absolutely nothing to offer him, and he has all the cards on the table, but he's like, oh, let's make a deal here. That's the vibes I got from this. What did you think of Jay's tactics here?
I actually thought it was probably a good approach, like it's just a very blunt approach. I think this approach, it depends on your relationship and it depends on the person.
Yeah.
But Kurt is, I think, a guy who responds fairly well to this amount of honesty.
I would agree. I mean, we saw him. He's been honest with everybody on his team, like in that, he feels like he doesn't have a good position. He told them straight up he thought Chad was a threat when that he didn't need to. He told Janet straight up, my position sucks and so does yours. I'm sorry, type of thing. So I have to imagine, like you said, Kurt really responds to this blunt, these blunt exchanges when it comes to game conversations. And I don't think as it was funny, Jay's approach, but in all seriousness, I do think Jay was doing the right thing here. especially if he has a relationship with Kurt outside of this game. Of course he should use it. Everybody would. And also with that, I don't if everybody and their mother wants Kurt gone, Kurt's own team wants him gone. It's not advantageous for Kurt to go here, right? Especially when you have people like Brett and Chad. So I don't think it's the worst thing ever for Jay to want to pull in Kurt here. So I didn't hate his approach either. Obviously, I think he maybe could have done a better job at reassuring Kurt, but it seems like the conversation went well because we're gonna see Kurt does exactly what he talked about he would do with Jay. So maybe it really worked for Kurt here.
There is a funny exchange because Steve walks up later in this conversation, and Kurt is talking about after Jay says, "We'll talk to you again next round." Kurt says, "I feel so used. I feel like a prostitute." And Steve like puts his hand on Kurt's shoulder, and goes, "Hey, you're at least an expensive prostitute."
Is it sad that I haven't seen Kurt laugh as hard this whole game until this conversation? Like Kurt makes us laugh, but do we ever see Kurt laugh?
It's a very dry sense of humor, so this was a nice like moment here.
I actually really like this conversation, honestly. Steve,
Yeah, it was my favorite part of the episode. So
like these feel like three guys who all relatively look at the game and talk about the game in a pretty similar fashion. So this felt like three people who are in three completely different positions who are all trying to talk about the game in a similar way. So it was actually kind of interesting in that way.
It felt like two guys who really knew each other well and one really expensive prostitute.
Wow, relatable. What can you do? That's Kurt. 90s sitcom music plays.
Kurt says in Confessional that you don't want to cut the head off the snake. You want to cut out the middle of the snake, which is actually a really good line. Do we know who he was referring to there?
I don't remember, but I know Billy has the foresight to say that should be the episode title. That's a great line.
Oh yeah.
So we're gonna get a few more confessionals. As I said earlier, Sarah's gonna tell Chad she thinks Brett could go. So one thing we missed from the Steve J Kurt conversation is this is gonna pre-tribal. This is gonna get the ball rolling on the target's Brett. Sarah's gonna tell Chad she thinks it could be Brett. A few other people are gonna throw out Brett's name, so it's not looking good here for Brett.
No.
Especially after he cheated in that challenge.
Yeah.
He got DQ'd.
We still haven't recovered from that.
No, but I mean, as you and I in Reelfoot history know, Chris DQing his team doesn't even get a vote cast against him. Brett may as well have not even gotten a vote cast against him. So maybe disqualifying your team or disqualifying yourself isn't the worst thing in the world.
No, but winning the challenge for your team, that's when you get in trouble.
No, exactly. And I was going to talk about this. I was going to talk about this when we got here. Steve surprised me. He was one of the most vocal people when we get to the tribal. Obviously, it's a live tribal, and Steve's very vocal. And I got to say, these people should be ashamed of themselves. Like, Steve is so loyal to these people. He's going to come to bat for all of them, and they all hate him. His own team hates him because he sucked in that challenge that he won for them. And yet, he's so loyal to them, he's going to actively put his neck out there and speak for them. So good for Steve. Like you said, I guess maybe disqualifying the challenge for your team is better at this point than winning the challenge for your team.
Did any of these other conversations jump out to you?
This is just the backwards world we live in.
Yeah.
Let's see. No, I mean, we talked briefly earlier about. I mentioned earlier about how Chad and Sarah talk about, they're like some of the singles in a sea of pairs. But other than that, the conversations mostly stemmed around Brett should go, but then Chelsea's idol is going to become a problem. And and this is ultimately what I think is going to get Kurt voted off. I didn't really follow this, Nathan. Did we ever get an answer as to who started the rumor that Chelsea was going to play the idol for Brett?
I don't think we ever did.
I don't know if that's just going to be like this is like tune in next week to find out type of thing, or if there's even footage of it on camera of who did this. But obviously, this is going to turn out to be a really big issue.
Yeah. Um, but I will say, normally Angelica reveals aren't minor things like that, like who started the rumor. It's normally more so
And they
your
also don't.
entire worldview has changed according to this reveal.
And they also do take their time when it comes to reveals. They point it at the exact right moment they want to. You know, they could have revealed these pairs at the very start of the game, but they waited. So I'm waiting. I will be very happy when it's final five and we finally find out who started this rumor. Um, no, I mean, there's a few good. Okay, let me ask you this: if you're somebody in these big groups and your name is thrown out there, like Brett, like Chelsea, even, and people find out that Chelsea has an idol, what do you do if you're these two in this situation?
Um, I don't know, to be honest. Like, do you have any ideas here?
So it's obviously situational. It depends on the people, but obviously it's weird because it's not. This is Brett. So Brett and Chelsea at one point have a conversation about how Chelsea's like, if I vote with you guys being the original Malik's, I'm gonna lose trust and be on the bottom. But even if Chelsea voted with them, that's only 5-5. You know, they would need someone else to flip over. So it's a weird situation where you have a guy who is on the bottom and should be going out the door in Brett, but you've got a real life relationship with Chelsea who everyone knows has an idol that complicates everything. So in a weird way, this is what keeps them in the game. But if this information never got out, who knows if they would even be in this position? So to answer your question, I don't really know if there's much you can do. I think you just hope that the target, you either throw out a name that's not your own, or you just hope on a prayer that the vote switches, because you can't always hope for the vote switching at tribal like it did here. And, you know, they did try to. I think maybe if Jay didn't win immunity, that more people would have, taken the bait. It's just unfortunate that Jay won for Brett and Chelsea here, because that took a really big target off the board.
It did.
Like if you're Brett and Chelsea, who do you, if you're not going to target original Malik, who do you even target here if you can't target Jay?
Um,
Because if people are going to flip on original Boster at the first vote, I'm not saying that they're always going to be original Boster, but if they're going to flip on the first vote, it's got to be for a big fish. So who do they even target? I don't even know. Amy, I guess, if they don't like the Amy and Taylor thing, but then that alienates Taylor, who you.
yeah.
So it's just a complicated. You and I talked. I mean, do they target Steve as like nobody's really close to him? But I don't think anybody's going to go for that.
No.
And like, I don't think people are going to. And like we talked about, people want Billy and Sarah's votes. So I just don't really think there was any option on the table that would have worked from original Basra, if not Jay. So maybe Kurt being the scapegoat was their only real, option here. I want to ask you, we hear briefly about how Chelsea is thinking about playing the idol on Chad as well. Do we have any idea where that came from? I guess Chad's name got thrown out there at some point, or was that a lie that Chelsea should play it on Chad, knowing Chad won't get votes?
I have to assume that's a lie, right?
Well, I just don't know where it came from. I remember hearing it. I'm not crazy, right? I remember hearing it in the episode. I just
Yeah.
don't know where it started. I have to assume that's a lie akin to the play it on Kurt thing.
Yeah.
But there's nothing. Did any other conversations stick out before Tribal to you that you want to talk about?
Honestly, the whole pre-tribal scramble was such a blur. So much
Yeah.
was coming out before then. It kind of blends together in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I need more Jays of the world to just be like, you vote this way, no options. I like that approach.
So we're gonna get to the tribal. Nathan, Jason doesn't even ask a question, and we're already getting people out of their seats whispering.
Yes.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was this to follow?
Um, I could not follow a lot of the strategy here. I was having trouble before Tribal
Yeah.
and during it, yeah. Uh, I was kind of like the contestants in that way. I'm like, I have my hopes. I'm not
You and I,
sure.
like the Chads and the Taylors, who never got out of their seat. But
That is
I
kind of a power move there to just stay seated. Like, "Oh, I'm okay. I don't care."
if I was a Survivor player, I would love it if I had the immunity necklace and I never stand up once. I'm like, look, you're gonna come to me, right? I'm not going anywhere. That would be
Kiss the ring. Kiss the ring here.
Kiss. I mean, that's what Jay should have done. Instead, he was standing up having conversations. He should have done his Godfather thing and just sat down. I will say that moment where they're all talking and it's jumping from conversation to conversation, that was a little hard to follow. But I will say, again, more props to Jason. He really does a great job of bringing it all in.
Yeah, and they kept having to like, guys, please vote. We need to finish this up.
Right.
They're
Well,
still up.
he's like, all right, I'm gonna ask you guys to sit down, and they all listen, and then it's like grade school. It's like, so, well, who said what? It's almost like he's the principal trying to figure out, who started the rumor. He's like, Brett, did you start it? No. Steve, I know something's on your mind. Okay, I want to ask you again. I don't know if there's much Brett could have done to get the target off of him pre-tribal. Brett was on the defense in tribal. I think that's fair to say. Everybody was coming at him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How do you think, in terms of just if you're the person who everybody's coming at tribal, how did Brett, in your opinion, how did Brett do here?
I thought he did very well, actually.
Do you think he did a good job refuting points or turning it back on the people who was fighting with him? Because that's ultimately the worst thing you can do if you're on the defense is people are coming at you and your arguments make no sense. So do you think he did an okay job refuting some points against him?
I don't know if it's necessarily a case of you need to refute them from like a wholly logical perspective. I think he did a good job of just firing rounds everywhere
Yeah.
and having like a nugget of truth in each of them, so it's not just him spouting nonsense.
Right.
But when you're on the hot seat that much, you might as well just embrace it at that point. Because like sitting there all sheepish, like, oh, I'm getting votes against me, like that makes it even worse.
Right. The worst thing you can there's a lot of wrong approaches when you're in the hot seat. That's a bad one. Another one is where you're just shouting at people, being like, "What up?" or just cursing people out.
What up?
What up? I could
Friend good, fire bad.
doing the war dog.
Yes.
But I'm with you. It's like you don't always have enough information to refute every single point they're making. But like you said, if what you're saying can at least stay consistent and there's a piece of logic to it, that's what's most important in these situations, I think. And I mean, he held himself well. Billy came at him, Steve came at him, Jay came at him, and he was holding himself well. Unfortunately, I don't know if necessarily Kurt. I can say the same about Kurt. I don't think Kurt did bad. I'm just saying he really didn't have any information that could refute that he was not the one who started the rumor.
Which that's such a difficult prospect. Like, Parker, did you steal my cheesecake? Like, no, Nathan, I didn't steal your cheesecake. Like, well, prove you didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know how to prove that.
Again, right. And I'm not necessarily saying there was anything he could have said to refute it, but I think at that point you have to point out, okay, I said this, or I have this relationship with so and so. Why would it make any sense to do that type of thing? I think maybe he could have at least done that. But again, this is armchair quarterbacking. I'm not saying there's necessarily anything else he could have done. In that moment, what was important was what he did was make sure people know that's not true and just hope they believe it.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I mean, the worst thing he could have done was like throw his hands around and look scared and be like, "No, no, no, it wasn't me," type of thing, and give up really
oh no.
like that would have been bad. But he didn't do that. He was stern and he said, "Absolutely not." So he probably did it as best as he could. But that was just a bizarre situation, that rumor that came out, which is why I asked you if we ever got clarity, and I don't think we did. So that was just a bizarre rumor to come out.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of, like you said, we get a lot of people talking, and eventually Jason has to be like, guys, we got to vote. Like, there's going to be a storm coming. It's going to be dark. we got to get to vote. So I loved what they did here. Did any voting confessionals stand out to you? We got a few. I was going to ask, did any of them stand out to you here?
Which one stuck out to you?
I liked when Jay, and they even played it again at the very end of the episode when Jay was like, these mother effers changed the vote, like 100 times. He's like, Kurt should, if Kurt leaves over Brett, that is asinine. Something like that. And yeah, I mean, Jay, both from an entertainment standpoint and a logical standpoint, I don't disagree with you there.
No.
But I'm also incredibly biased. I have to go ahead. Sorry.
Kurt is like a more laid back, like Jonathan Penner, like because he has all this like heat around him, and he is like blunt in a lot of ways, similar to Penner, but he's not like angry necessarily. He's more so like stern, like standing strong with this, rather than be like, "You idiots, why are you targeting me?" Blah 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 blah. That kind of thing.
I feel like Kurt was basically Penner in the Philippines this whole game. Like,
yeah.
Like, even he was a target the moment he stepped foot in the game, and even when it was going okay for Kurt, he wasn't necessarily in a good position. It's just other people were screwing up more than he was, and the majority alliance was like, he can stay for now. So neither of them played bad. It's just they were always a target for whatever reason. So that's a good comparison. A Kurt is a more low-key Penner, or a reserve Penner. I like that comparison. I was gonna say Jay continuing his Godfather tactics. Before Chelsea goes to vote, he's gonna say, "Chelsea, you're safe. Vote for Brett and play that idol on Kurt." Okay. Right before somebody goes to vote, what is this tactic?
That is an insane proposition right there.
So that
like if that worked, that would have been the greatest tribal council of all time.
And then you have Jason following up. She outed out her fiance.
Whoa.
Wow.
Is there any reason for her to play it for Kurt at this point?
No. So okay, I have to ask, because we don't get confirmation that Jay knows about Brett and Chelsea. So I'm going to hope that Jay just doesn't know about Brett and Chelsea's relationship, because if Jay does know about Brett and Chelsea, that is, first of all, the most baller thing I've ever heard. Hey, don't play this idol on a guy you've talked to for 10 minutes and idol out for your fiance. But it would also be one of the craziest statements I've ever heard from a player. So
it would be like going up to like someone like randomly on the street, like, "Hey, I know your kid's sick over there, but give me all your money you have for their medical bills. Just trust me. It'll work out."
That was insane, that play from Jay. So again, I don't know if he knew about Brett and Chelsea. I kind of hope he did, because it just makes it funnier. It's like, hey, I know you and Brett are, whatever, but can you just idle him out for me and vote? Not only can you play this idol on Kurt, who you have no reason to trust, can you also vote for Brett? So that was probably another highlight of the episode for me, in all honesty.
Yes.
And it was completely unintentionally funny. But no, to answer your question, Chelsea has next to no reason to idol Kurt here. She has more of a reason to idol Jason than to idol Kurt. Like, there's absolutely no reason she should do this, especially if she already doesn't trust Jay. And like somebody mentioned there's confessional. I think it might have been Billy. I forget who. Voting confessional is like Kurt. Kurt was seen talking to Jay most of this round, which I mean, based on what little we saw, is probably accurate. We know he at least talked to Jay some. So, if Chelsea's already sketch of Jay, why wouldn't she be sketch of Kurt as well? Oh, I was gonna say, I apologize. Going back to it, Kurt made a joke during the tribal that made me think. As I heard it, I said that's a joke that Nathan would make.
What was it?
At some point, Kurt says, maybe we should just vote out production.
Yeah, I could see that.
And it was a tongue-in-cheek joke, and then Jason was like, "You can vote for me; it won't help you." But it was just, I'm like, this is a joke. First of all, if you never made that joke during both times of Reelfoot, I'm shocked because I feel like that is a joke you would make. But it was just a joke that it made me think. So I award you with no higher compliment than you and Kurt have a similar sense of humor.
I'm gonna cry myself to sleep tonight. I'm so happy about this compliment.
Well, you need to. You cry. We both cried ourselves to sleep when Kurt got voted off. So if we're gonna cry ourselves to sleep, it may as well be happy tears.
Beautiful.
Anything else from the tribal or the voting confessionals?
R.I.P. Kurt.
R.I.P.
I miss him already.
It's a 7-3 vote. All of Taylor, Chad, and Brett, all original Malik votes for Kurt. Kurt votes for Brett. He told Jay, even after Steve called him an expensive prostitute, he told Jay, "Look, if I'm going to vote with y'all, it's going to be a lowercase BRE, 2 capital T's. That's my signal." that was I liked how that was Kurt in that conversation with Steve and Jay. That was his assertiveness. We talked about Jay's assertiveness. That was Kurt's. He was pointing at Jay as well. He's like, that's my signal.
I love how Kurt's signal is how a lot of memes do sarcasm, just arbitrarily capitalizing random letters. I'm voting for Brett.
He may as well have capitalized the E and no other letter.
Yeah.
So R.I.P. Kurt. He unfortunately does not make the jury, so we do not get to see the epicness of Kurt's jury facial expressions and his jury speech.
Kurt's facial expressions on the jury, actually, it would have been good, but not in the conventional Eliza clickbait way, whoa,
right.
That kind of. It probably would have just been underreacting, if anything. Someone does something huge, and he's like.
It would have been. It wouldn't be the Eliza gif or the Alec. It would be the Billy's gonna say, "Yeah, Chad's my cousin," and Kurt's like, "Huh." I already knew that. Or going
almost Randy Bailey-esque in a way.
Going back to the first episode, the camera's gonna go on Kurt, and he's gonna be looking down at his feet, and he's gonna be whispering to himself, "My feet hurt." I haven't paid attention to the jury speech. Okay, what would Kurt's jury speech have been like? If we just had to imagine, take out whoever's in the final 2 or 3. Just what would his jury speech have been like?
I feel like it has to be some kind of Big Tom type question where it's it's presented as a serious question, but it's a ridiculous conundrum you have to answer.
Would you rather stay in the porta potty for 14 hours? You're gonna have to help me. I don't know the second half of that. Just obviously Kurt's main alliance with the porta potty, so I had to make sure that we got that in there.
It'd be it wouldn't be this kind of reference, but it'd be asking someone compare your game to a type of salad. And this is solely what will determine my vote.
Proof.
Beautiful.
Yes, it would have been that. It would have been I want you to compare your opponent. What type, if their game was similar to an animal, what animal did they play like? No,
and you can only use aquatic animals.
Yeah. No. He would have started off with saying All right. How did you? If you happen to play the game like an animal, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Like he would have started off like a real question and then done some non sequitur. Oh man, we missed out on that. R.I.P. Kurt. But that was the end of the episode. Again, we don't find out who started the rumor. We're not sure what's totally going to happen next. But Nathan, to wrap this up, why don't we do some predictions? We got 9 people left.
So just to clarify, episode 8 is out. Neither of us have watched it yet.
Not yet. So I don't know what's going to happen. Episode 8 is out, everybody. We're gonna be in talks soon about when to cover it, but no spoilers in the comments, please, because we haven't watched past this episode, so we don't know who went home next or if they were on the jury. I assume they're going to be on the jury, but we're just going to talk about the 9 remaining players as of this episode.
So this is like a unique opportunity to anyone listening, because now you can be positive that we're wrong in the real time, rather than us just being wrong in a general sense.
Yeah, at least before we had the excuse that the episodes weren't out. Now they laugh at us because they're like, not only are they terrible at predicting, they haven't even watched the episode, and it's available to them right now. That'll show.
I think we're gonna get Idol Madness next episode, if I had to predict.
Oh, right. So that was another thing. Sorry, Chelsea did not play her idol.
No, despite Jay's incredible pitch.
Despite Jay's pitch, despite Brett's pitch, despite Kurt's non-existent pitch, Chelsea still has her idol. So
I'm always impressed by people with the fortitude not to play idols. Like, this is why an idol wouldn't be that useful for me, because if I hear my name come out once, I'm like, oh, idol. You know, I would just play it so quickly.
If I ever had an idol, I feel like I'm going to misplay it terribly, because like you said, if I even hear my name, I'm going to play it. So I have mad respect for anybody who hears their name and has the foresight to be like, not this round. So props to Chelsea, because not only did she not get any votes, Brett didn't go home. So good on her.
So now now that she has an idol, now they're uber threats rather than just extreme threats.
Basically,
to maintain their status here.
Well, they have Jay said a funny line where I have to say, Jay said another funny line in the confessional after he was finishing cursing people out, where he said he wrote down Brett's name. He said, "Brett, sorry, buddy. You're a threat. Maybe he'll wear his cleats and we can get him out after that." Or maybe he said something like, maybe he'll put on his cleats again and we can get him out then. Which I did think was funny. So I say that to transition into, even though Chelsea has an idol, maybe Brett will just get disqualified from the challenge again and everything will be okay.
Yes.
But I have to imagine, if nothing changes, right, they'll just split the votes, right?
Do they have the numbers, though? I mean, they couldn't get numbers this time.
So, okay. Here's the thing. If Chelsea, you got to look at it as like, is Chelsea dead to original Basra? That's the question. And I don't think we have enough information as of this episode to answer that.
I mean, I think if she was dead to original Basra, I think we would have seen it here.
Well, I think they were worried about her idol. So I'm not saying she's dead to them. I'm just saying the question is because if she's dead to them, they'll split the votes. But if she's not dead to them, maybe they'll still keep her around. That's all I meant.
This is a weird round because in theory, like Kurt is like a quick consensus vote. And if you just looked at this episode, you watched like the vote tallies and you just saw like who got eliminated, you would assume like, oh, this merge must have been really boring. Like nothing must have happened. It must have just been like, oh, who's like the easy vote. But that wasn't what happened at all. So it's this weird thing where like there are so many names thrown around, so much scrambling, only for it to just fold back to like the original plan.
Right. It was weird time, but I guess again, not totally surprised. Kurt got voted off not for the reason I thought. I mean, again, I thought if he was to get voted off, it's because he was an easy consensus with a fracture Malik, which kind of was the case. But I really do think had it not been for Chelsea's idol, we could have seen a Brett exit here. So it was just very unlucky for Kurt.
It's a difficult scenario for Kurt because he didn't have anyone who was really standing up for him. Honestly, the person who's probably advocating for him most was Jay. Um,
Right.
but when you have no one who's really pulling for you, when it's so live and everyone's being pulled which ways, it makes sense that eventually people be like, you know what, screw this. I'm just voting for Kurt. I don't care. I'm not going home this round.
And to Kurt's point, I actually think if you're going to buddy up with somebody in power, Jay was probably a good idea. It's just unfortunately, because I do think Jay had a lot of power in the original team, but obviously now I think he's more of a figurehead than an actual like person in a power position. I'm not saying Jay has no power, but he's clearly a huge target, and I think he's more of a figurehead at this point. So I don't think Kurt had the wrong read butting up with Jay. It's just unfortunate that the Bossor people were not as keen on doing what Jay wanted as Kurt and Jay had hoped for.
The
And
fact that he couldn't get his way this round, does that make you worried for Jay?
Makes me very worried for Jay, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm not, again, we'll have to see if there's no like shakeup. Like we could see a Brett and Chelsea out again if we're still if we're just if we trust if okay, let's say like if Brett wins immunity or even if not, if we still want to keep Bostra people, we still have Taylor and Shad as an option. So I'm not saying Jay is right now next out the door, but you have to imagine he lost this round not getting the way he not getting what he wanted. He lost a lot of social capital here, don't you think?
Yeah. Um, Naomi actually asked in the YouTube chat, who are we rooting for to win at this point? Like, regardless of who we think will win.
Well, Naomi, who we wanted, is gone.
Yeah, we have like a power vacuum now. We have a
So
well, and not in like a crazy way, like not like, oh, these people are so unlikable. It's actually kind of the opposite. Like I like everyone left.
yeah,
So to me, like who I would root for is who I think would have the most insane like season if they won.
yeah.
Like I
I
think if Chelsea won this season, I think this would be an insane season. I think that would be exciting.
I said she could win. uh,
Yeah.
I that's a great question. Like I'm with you. I'm not rooting for anybody. I've met Billy IRL. Billy's a super nice guy. Billy's a great guy. So personal bias, I'm rooting for Billy. I would love for him to get a win. He's a great player and he's a good guy. But if I'm just looking at it, taking the bias out of it, and just looking at it from a TV standpoint, Billy would be a great winner. Um, rooting for. I'm just like you. I'm interested in. Oh, sorry. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. You're freezing up on me a
Hello.
little bit. Are you there?
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. The yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Parker is so crestfallen here that he's been breaking up on the call.
No, I'm not even trying to. Oh no. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. There's a little bit of lag, but I can hear you. As long as you can, as long as you can hear me, then that's fine. Yeah, I'm like you. I'm just. I hope for a crazy outcome, and like you said, Chelsea winning after all this would be a crazy outcome. And if Brett can pull this off, that would be a crazy outcome. But I still think there's a path for a Taylor win here. We talked about with Michael O'Rear a few weeks back. I do think there's still a path for her.
Um, I think I would go with either her or Amy as the front runners.
I'd agree with that.
Honestly, I think there are 4 people who have like a really really good chance right now. I think we're at a point where I don't think anyone's just totally drawing dead, which is rare.
That is
Like
rare.
I think pretty much anyone could realistically win. Um, I would guess at this point it's Amy, Taylor, um, Billy, or Sarah. Those would be, I think, most likely.
I think those
Um,
I think those are the 4 in the best positions, certainly.
And you might be. I was tempted to like throw Chad in there, but the fact that his name has already started to be thrown out there.
Yeah.
Well, I get that it wasn't really like a serious name, but I have a harder time seeing someone saying like, "Yeah, I really want to go to the Final Four with Chad," like because he's in like such good physical shape and he's really built well for these challenges.
I think of the remaining people, who Chad is the person who's most affected by Alyssa leaving. I think Alyssa, you talk about how you need somebody to really like uh, be in your corner and stand up for you if your name gets out there. I think that person for Chad was Alyssa. So I think Chad, I'm not saying Chad has no allies. I'm just saying I do think if it's going to come to a point either soon or down the road where, like you said, Chad is going to be seen as a physical threat and he's so likable. And also, he's not going to have a very close ally who wants to keep him. That's my prediction. I think he's in a good spot to be a swing vote and jump between maybe some different alliances, but I don't necessarily see him making the end just because he is so threatening. And that's a compliment to him.
Well, and the benefit to him is he's probably not going to go out in the next few rounds, most likely. So he has some time to build something up.
I agree. But I agree with you. I think Amy, Taylor, Sarah, and Billy are in very good positions to win this game. Not that nobody else can't win, but I think everyone else, their positioning is they either already have a target on their back or their positioning is not as good. So I think you have it right there.
One person who I think actually might be underestimated, not necessarily to win, but like to do well in these challenges. Um, I think Steve could start winning immunities here.
I do.
Um, like older men who have like experience and like are in good shape, like they win in-game challenges a lot.
The Todd father.
Yeah, like Todd, Ronnie,
Yeah.
others. I guess that list ended there. But
Tom,
I mean, I think it's useful to have like
I mean,
more
Tom, look,
experience in that way.
look, you
And
got Tom
he's
Weston, Terry Dietz. Like, this is a real thing here.
yeah. Um
I think Steve is in a good position to win challenges. I agree with you. I think Jay is either going to have to win out at some point or start winning out soon, unfortunately. Um, but I'm with you. I think Chad's a threat in challenges. Just if you look at the build, Chelsea's a threat. Steve is somebody who they may need to watch out for. He could win some challenges when least expected.
um due to his scandal here, Brett now has to wear roller skates to every single immunity challenge. So that might hinder him. It might actually help his game because people think like, oh, he's wearing roller skates. He can't win anything.
when you when you said roller skates, I just think of the Big Brother challenge where uh, the sixth place gets some random punishment, fifth place gets something good. Somebody always gets a trip somewhere, and then everyone else gets like a weird punishment. And I imagine what if Survivor did that, and Brett's like, "Oh, Brett, for the next 13 challenges, you have to wear." Okay.
I love how just unbelievably unfair that would be. Like just casually like, "Oh yeah, Brett for the next 13 challenges." Like, good luck.
Steve, every challenge from here on out for you is the fire making challenge, Like Taylor, you have to be hooked up to Billy, for the next 24 hours, and the game is only 12 more hours long. It's like, just can you imagine if Survivor had that thing that Big Brother has? I wouldn't hate that. I think you might, but I wouldn't hate that. I'm not saying Angelica should, but hey, Survivor 42, get on that.
I cannot advocate for Survivor to emulate Big Brother, so
I didn't say emulate all aspects. I just said, hey, what about that one?
Eh, I'm not the biggest Big Brother fan, so maybe I should stay out of this.
You're also, you're not the biggest Big Brother fan. You're not the biggest Apprentice fan.
I am a big Apprentice fan.
I do like The Apprentice.
Yes.
I forgot, are you a big Amazing Race guy?
Uh, it's okay. Like I enjoy watching it. It's just
Yeah,
I find it incredibly difficult to remember anything from The Amazing Race.
I like The Amazing Race. Okay, what was another one? Oh, I had one.
Opposite Worlds.
Yeah. I've actually never seen.
You're fortunate.
Have you ever seen Pimp My Ride?
I have not.
I don't think it's. I don't know if you'd like it, but it was a good show.
Would that be the dumbest LRG potentially?
Pimp My Ride.
Pimp My Ride. The LRG version.
I'm still waiting for Real Foot's Got Talent.
Yes.
Where everybody comes up and does their no, Real Foot Idol. Everybody comes up and sings a song. What would be the real quick, this is obviously really important. Our listeners need to know this. What would be the dumbest LRG that we could base the game off of?
It would have to be one that's
Naomi,
like
if you're
very like location specific or like industry specific.
Naomi, if you're still here, put your guess.
Um, I feel like an Amazing Race LRG would be really difficult.
I've seen one. It was
Okay, so
hard to
maybe
pull
not
off.
that then.
No, it was hard to pull off, but they did a good job. I'm just trying to think of an already. I think the way to look at it is like an already bad idea, and that now taking out all of the business and studio money, so to where it's fan made.
Well, maybe like one of the like Big Brother UK or one of those where there's like no game to it at all. It's literally just people inside a house.
Yeah, and it's the audience voting. That'd be pretty good.
Like like random
King of the
one-off
Nerds?
like shows like Utopia LRG would be horrible.
What about King of the Nerds LRG? Would
that
that
would
be
actually be good because King of the Nerds looks like an LRG.
That wouldn't be bad. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's one really obvious one that I'm just like missing off the top of my head that was like didn't catch on and it was back in the day. I'm thinking back to whatever they cover on RHAP. You know
A
what?
Hell's Kitchen LRG would be difficult.
You know what? You know what? I think we should sleep on this and continue this discussion in the next episode because obviously this is a very important answer that the viewers of Survivor Angelica want to know. No, I'm dead serious. I think we need to sleep on it and we will have an answer next time. After we do some research.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Kurt got votes at every tribal council he attended this season. That rarely happens. I feel like sometimes you hear people be like, oh, that person couldn't catch a break. They got a vote at like every tribal. And yet, not to be that guy, like they didn't get a vote at like one or two. Kurt literally.
Thank you. They did not. They weren't like Kurt.
They did not. But like Kurt literally got one at every tribal. So I feel bad for him. I feel like he. Like even our boy Carlos, we can't say that about him. Like Carlos was basically Kurt this season, right? Is that a fair comparison?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Couldn't get their footing. Everybody thought they had an idol when they didn't, and they really didn't do anything wrong. And yet people were just like, can't trust them. So I hope that I hope that the remaining 9 people continue fighting hard because right now I really do think it's anybody's game. I don't see this going down a predictable like pagonging of the original Malik. I really don't. Now, would it surprise me if Brett went home next week? Not really, but I don't really think it's just going to be original Basra in the end. I really don't. So I'm very excited to see where we go next.
I'm very excited too.
But no, if that's all you could think of, man. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Once again, we apologize that this one kind of took a while. Real life gets in the way, but we're back. We're very excited. We got episode 8 to cover. Episode 9, whenever that's up, we'll make sure to cover that as well. Nathan and I are going to be in touch soon to figure out when we can schedule another one of these things. And we're very excited to be able to cover Survivor Angelica again. It's been a great season so far. Now we're at the merge, so it's every man for himself, and we're going to see how it goes. But that's all. If that's all you had, Nathan, I want to thank everybody for watching.
Thank you all.